Today, the National Assembly joint session passes President Bola Tinubu's 2025 budget. 54.99 trillion is the final figure which the lawmakers agreed upon today. And governors of the Southwest, all of them, the 6 of them, were today present in Lagos, and they united on several things. One of the major issues they agreed upon is how to secure the Southwest region. Details tonight. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimale here in Abuja. Tonight, our attention is on some very critical issues. One is the budget of 2025. The National Assembly has now passed the budget, which is the final figure put at 54.99 trillion. It shows that there is 3.645 trillion for statutory transfers, 14.3 trillion for debt servicing, and 13.6 trillion for recurrent expenditure, and 23.9 trillion for capital expenditure. The House of Reps today passed that amount on the budget, and from the breakdown, it does look that there is an increment from the 49.7 trillion the President initially presented to the joint session of the National Assembly in December of last year, to a final figure of 54.99 trillion. That is about a 5 trillion or more difference, an increment in what the President presented. We'll be analyzing for you tonight what this meant, all of the gray areas, all of the issues in the budget. We'll be breaking it down for you tonight. Before we get started on our conversation, which is very critical, and of course I will be bringing you up to speed with what happened today in Lagos, let's serve you with some of your political roundup stories.
The federal government and the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, NECA, have restated their commitment to social dialogue with employees to ensure industrial peace and harmony in Nigeria. The Minister of Labour and Employment gave the assurances along with the Director General of NECA at the 2025 Labour Adjudication and Arbitration Forum in Abuja. Meanwhile, the National Industrial Adjudication Panel is advocating reforms to Nigerian labour laws to eliminate ambiguities in their applications. The Kano State Court has fixed April 15, 2025 for the hearing of all pending preliminary objections in a case of alleged bribery and misappropriation involving the National Chairman of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Abdullahi Ganduje, his wife, Hafsat Umar, and 6 others. At the resumed hearing of the case on Thursday, the prosecution counsel, Adeola Adedigbe, SAN, told the court that it was ready to proceed. Counsel for Ganduje, his wife, and Umar, Mrs. Lydia Oluwakemi Oyewo, also indicated readiness to proceed with their defense. However, some defense counsels requested more time to regularize their legal processes. Counsel for the 3rd and 7th defendants, Adekunle Taye Falola, says he has filed application for an extension of time to regularize the processes. Justice Chinyere Onwechonu of the FCT High Court Kuje has shifted ruling on the bail application of a former Executive Secretary of the National Health Insurance Scheme, Professor Usman Yusuf, who is facing corruption allegations, to February 27. Justice Onwechonu ruled that the defendant be remanded in the Nigerian Correctional Service Facility in Kuje FCT pending the ruling of his bail application. Arguing the bail, the prosecution counsel, Francis Sani, informed the court that Yusuf did not comply with the terms of an administrative bail granted to him by the EFCC to report bi-weekly to his office. He further submitted that the defendant had boasted about his political connections and would have scorned from the trial if granted bail. Some youths under the National Youth Council of Nigeria, NYCN, Rivers State Chapter, have staged a solidarity march in support of Governor Siminalayi Fubara as political tension continues to mount in the state. The crowd from the 23 local government areas of the state staged a walk about 7 kilometers from the Garrison flyover along Aba Road to Government House, where they presented a prepared statement affirming their support for the governor. governor. The march comes some days after the latest controversy surrounding the Supreme Court interpretation of the 2024 appropriation case, and the day after the Pan-Niger Delta Forum PANDEF committee expressed interest in mediating between Governor Fubara and former Governor Nyesom Wike. Meanwhile, the immediate past acting chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in Ebonyi State, Mr. Ifeanyi Nwore, has defected to the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. Mr. Nwore, alongside hundreds of his supporters, were welcomed to the APC with a civic reception at Eza South Local Government Area Headquarters, Onueke. He declared his support to Governor Francis Nwifuru-led administration, adding that his intention of joining the APC was because of people-oriented policies of the party.
I'm happy that people are joining my party. As the chairman, I am the first beneficiary. So why will I be worried that I am not making profit from the business I'm doing? So I am happy, I'm fine. I want many more of them. Whatever it will cost me, even going to their places. I travel from here to Lagos to go and meet some of them individually.
Lastly, the Edo State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal has adjourned proceedings to March 3 for parties in the petition to adopt their final written addresses. The adjournment followed the decision of the All Progressives Congress to close its case without presenting additional witnesses in defense of Edo State Governor Mondo Gweholo's victory in the September 21, 2024 governorship election. The tribunal adjourned proceedings to March 3, allowing all parties time to file and respond to the final written addresses before returning on the scheduled date for adoption.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight on the program. There you have it. You've been served with your political roundup stories. Let me take you to Lagos, everyone. And quickly, let me tell you what happened today. All the 6 states governors in the Southwest met in Lagos, and the chair of the Southwest Lagos Forum, Lagos Governors Forum, that is the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, was a host. And that meeting, they agreed on a lot of things, although most of their deliberations were behind closed door. Let me bring you up to speed with some of those things they agreed upon. One which came out to me was the issue of security. Also, food security was part of the conversation. And they say in their communique that they recognize the need for food security, and the forum encourages collaboration among Southwest states to implement collective measures at curbing food inflation in the region. They also are putting together their heads on how to further advance the cause of Odua Investment Company, and of course the organization that is helping to push the Southwest region interest, which is the Dawn Commission. On the issue of joint security, the forum agreed to establish a joint surveillance monitoring team to oversee and coordinate security efforts across the Southwest region. As part of their resolution, the forum has committed to deploying advanced technology, including area surveillance systems, to enhance security operations. Additionally, the forum resolved that its special advisors on security will collaborate on intelligence gathering and sharing between state security agencies, local security networks, and federal law enforcement. This is particularly very critical. They say that they acknowledge the threats posed by ISWAP activities in parts of the Southwest, and the forum strongly condemns any threat to the region's security. It encourages enhanced collaboration between the Nigerian police force and local security outfits, urging them to remain vigilant. The forum also commits to taking necessary actions to counter these threats. Those are some of the deliberations made by the governors of the Southwest today, chaired by Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the governor of Lagos State. And of course, on Channels Television, you will be getting to hear the sound bites, some of the insight that have come out of it, major decisions out of that meeting. Well, let me take you to the National Assembly now, where our attention will be focused on the over 5 trillion naira added to the presentation made by President Bola Tinubu in December for the 2025 budget. The National Assembly has agreed and passed the figures to be 54.99 trillion in the 2025 budget after deliberations and budget defense by the MDAs. The agreement comes after several weeks of deliberations and debate over the appropriations bill. Well, as passed today, it's now be passed on to the president for his assent. Let me allow you to listen to some of the sound bites coming from the National Assembly today after the Chamber of the National Assembly passed the 54.99 trillion figure of the 2024-5 appropriation bill.
A bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the sum of 54 trillion 990 billion 165 million 355,396 naira only, of which 3 trillion 645 billion 961 million 358,925 naira only is for statutory transfers. 14 trillion 317 billion 142 billion 689,548 naira only is for debt servicing. 13 trillion 64 billion 9,682,673 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 23 trillion 963 billion 251 million 624,250 naira only is for contribution to Development Fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st day of December. This bill is read a third time and passed.
Report of the Committee on Appropriations on a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 54 trillion 990 billion 165 million 355,396 naira only, of which 3 trillion 645 billion 761 million 358,925 naira only is for statutory transfers, while 14 trillion 689,548 naira only is for debt service. The sum of 13 trillion 664 billion 9,682,673 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 23 trillion 963 billion 251 million 624,250 naira only is for contribution to the Development Fund for the capital expenditure for the year ending 31st December 2025. And in so doing, approved clauses 1 to 13, the schedules as amended, explanatory memorandum, and the long title of the bill.
All right, there you have it. The leaders of the different chambers of the National Assembly reading the position of their colleagues. Don't forget, there was a few weeks ago or a few days ago, the president who formally requested the National Assembly to increase the 2025 budget from the 49.7 trillion to 54.2 trillion Well, you do know that today there's also an increase from 54.2 trillion to 54.99 trillion by the National Assembly when they eventually passed the budget today. So let's get a sense from all of the debates and all of the arguments on what is and what is not in the budget. I'm being joined by the chairman of the Senate Committee on Finance, Senator Sani Musa. It's live for us here in Abuja, Senator. Thank you so much, distinguished, and thank you so much indeed for making time.
Thank you, Shehu.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen an increase, and the president justified his request. But then we've seen that it did not stop from there. You and your colleagues had increased from 54.2 trillion, which the president had pushed for or requested for, to the envelope is now put at 54.99 trillion. Can you give us an understanding, a summary of how you arrived at those figures?
Shehu, thank you very much. First and foremost, I would have loved you to commend the National Assembly for doing this hard job of making sure within a short time frame we've been able to deliberate on the 2025 appropriation bill, and eventually working hard in collaboration with the executive to see that this budget is being passed today. I think I will use this medium as well to commend ourselves because we've done a good job. Despite the fact that the time limit, we've been able to reach these successes.
And we need to commend Nigerian Senator too for paying you very well, because you guys have been paid very well to do the job. So as you are commending your colleagues, Nigerians need to be commended. Out of the no money in the country, we are paying you very well to do the job.
If you look at it, even you, Shehu, that you are working with channels, you will not work for channels for free. But I think we have done what we need to do for this country in terms of passing this Appropriation Act. We have passed it. And the parameters you had, I wanted to know what are the highlights. I can give you the highlights. Absolutely. You said it was 49.7 trillion that the Mr. President brought. And then we eventually passed at 54.99. Yes. National Assembly has the prerogative of appropriating, and whatever the executive are presenting is like a proposal. But first and foremost, I want to commend Mr. President, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, for bringing this budget, and not also just bringing the budget, but also allowing the National Assembly to look at this budget critically and assess it and see that, look, it's something that is workable for this country without any interference. So I want to commend Mr. President for doing that. This budget, if you look at the presentation when he presented it, was 49.7 trillion. But when the budget was committed to the committees of finance and appropriation, we looked at them, and then we look at what we have already had from the budget office. We looked at all the submissions that the budget office received from various MDAs. We looked at the revenue profile of the country as well, both for the MDAs and the GOEs. We eventually believe that, look, we can even do better. Because if we compare what we had in 2023 and what we had in 2024, 2025 is supposed to be quite different. And so doing, we decided to take up, like the Finance Committee decided to take up 3 days exercise to review and ask questions. Look at the performances of these GOEs and other revenue generating agencies of government to see why are we getting the figure that we're getting from the budget office, which is also part of the proposal that was presented by Mr. President. And looking at it, we reviewed it, we called almost about 64 agencies, 64 GOEs, which, they are all part of the government's agencies. And we looked at their budget projections, we looked at their performances, and we saw that there are room for more. We look at their operating surpluses. What have they remitted in the last 2 years? What have they remitted last year? and what are we expecting them to remedy this year? And I will also commend the government for the initiating technology into collection, because with so doing, we will even get more than what we are getting today. And from what we have done, we found out that from the Nigerian Customs Services, we'll be able to make close to around 1.2 trillion more than what has been presented, looking at the fact that they have so many lines of revenue collection and some levies that they are placing. And that does not translate to saying that they are going to impose more. But what we have seen, the leakages we have seen, we try to take advantage of that exercise to block those leakages. And we also looked at the other GOEs, where you will see that a GOE will receive revenue of so amount, and at the end of the day, that agency will remit just little money to the Consolidated Revenue Fund. And we realize that there are overheads. If you said you are realizing money, you are on your operational costs, you are serving yourself, you are not receiving anything from the national budget. We expect that, yes, you limit your expenditure to exactly what you require that will make you to collect more revenue. And whatever is there in excess supposed to go to the Consolidated Revenue Fund. And so doing, we calculated for many of these GOEs, and we were able to save and get close to about 1.8 trillion. 1.8 trillion into the budget. We also looked at the Federal Inland Revenue Services. We looked at their cost of collection, and we looked at how they've been able to transform, especially in their collections using technology. And they've been able to do quite a lot, and we believe that the projection they gave us for 2025, there is room for us to be able to get more revenue in terms of the surpluses that will go to a Consolidated Revenue Fund. And there we were able to save about 1.497 trillion, which we also added it to the Appropriation Act, Appropriation Bill. Let me tell you something that will maybe give you some kind of hope. When Mr. President presented that 49.7 trillion budget, we looked at it, and after our exercise, we brought this about 4.5 trillion more into the budget. Not a single addition was made. But you were asking, what happened that you saw some additions? You will recall that the President of the United States of America, USA, Donald Trump, have recently called off all the activities of USAID, United States Agency for International Development. And you know, these agencies have been supporting a lot of developing countries in areas of health. They've been supporting so many programs like the HIV program and the tuberculosis program, so many of these programs. And if those funding that used to come to take care of those places is no longer going to come, what are we supposed to do? We have to quickly look inwardly and see where we can generate more money. And by so, when we generated this more money, we now put it into the appropriation. And the good thing I want you to know is that the 4.5 addition that we've gotten, which Mr. President have directed that no money should be allocated just like that because there is more money. We should prioritize it. And these things were prioritized. You can see that the Bank of Agriculture today is going to come back on stream with a capitalization of close to about 1.5 trillion. That is a good thing. You will see the BOI getting more funding. You see so many, you see the military aviation. We've been fighting insecurity, and you can see how we've been able to, the government have been able to reduce the insecurity we are facing in this country. And so also, because government is looking at the way that the inflation will come down. And that is the reason why Mr. President believed that National Assembly should go ahead and look at the possibility of approving this fund for the Bank of Agriculture so that the small farmers and those cooperatives will be able to access funds easily and we will have some kind of bumper harvest, not only during dry season, but even during not only during rainy season, but also during the dry season with irrigation. So, Sheyun, if you look at the aggregate expenditure that government has also put in this budget, when you look at the sum of 54.9 trillion, which translates to only about 30-something billion dollars, you will know that, look, Nigeria will deserve this budget, and I believe that by next year, Mr. President will look inwardly again to generate more funds so that our budget can go more up, and then we'll be able to touch on all the infrastructures. You can see that the legacy projects have not been left out because the Renewed Hope Infrastructural Fund has also been adequately funded. And then when you go to the statutory transfers, you will see that government has made available about 3.6 trillion to take care of that. If you look at the recurrent expenditure, we have about 13.064 trillion.
Let me jump in now. I was keenly listening to some of the defense of the intentions or behind the figures that the president had presented into the budget, and I would like our viewers to be able to attentively look at the mindset behind those figures. But let me take a look with you. Some of the indices, the parameters set by the president, and the realities on the ground. Take, for example, Senator, some of the parameters include the crude oil benchmark set for the budget. It was put at $75 per barrel. Yep. The crude oil production, 2.06 million barrels per day. Yep. Exchange rate at 1,500 naira to $1. Yes. Total expenditure 49.7. But let me go to those parameters. For example, do you think it's realistic for us to be able to achieve crude oil production of 2.06 million barrels per day, knowing that that is our mainstay of our revenue?
The Senate Committee on Finance called on the NNPC managing chief executive, which he appeared with the economic team as a whole. They appeared before the committee, and we asked questions, and we were convinced with what they said, and we have seen it practically happening. Because as at yesterday, the figure I have seen, Nigeria has been able to produce close to about 1.65 million barrels per day. And this is just within the first half of the first quarter, Q1. So if we looked at the end of Q1, we'll be able to aggregate to seeing that, look, between now and the next 4 or 5 months, we should be able to be hitting close to about 2 million barrels. And from what I have heard, the chief executive officer of NNPC said, he said all the issues that we used to have are adequately being taken care of. One, if you look at the cash calls, government is able to take care of that side very adequately. If you look at the reconciliation, and as at October last year, government has been able to start stabilizing on the new petroleum pricing. And based on all these parameters, I believe that we will be able to meet our targets. And the 1,500 of the dollar, you can see how the dollar have stabilized for the first time in the history of this country since we abridged. Those days you hear official rates and you hear the black market rate. And by the time you compare the price of the official rate and the price of the black market, you will see that it is close to almost about 40-50%. About 40-40%.
Please, let's stay on the issue of the crude oil production, and I'm asking for how realistic, whether or not we're just playing with figures here. Just for a moment, sir. A month ago, Nigeria hit the highest oil production in the longest time that one can imagine, at least 4 or 5 years, of 1.5 million barrel per day. And even if OPEC has recognized the fact that we are hitting about 1.7, the issues are there. If there are explanations to the reason why we put our oil production benchmark to over 2 million barrels per day, and we've only been able to achieve in the longest time not above 1.7 million barrels per day. Senator, I imagine that as a finance person that you are, with your experience with numbers, one should stay in a very safe corridor. The security issues that are there, have they been able to resolve it? The issues of illegal cutting away of our products from Nigerians, have they been able to resolve it? There are experts who say, Senator, just for a moment, that the figure of 2 million barrels per day is far higher than reality. No, Shehu, I will argue with you. If going by the words of Mr. President, Nigeria should be producing more than 2 million barrels. Should be. And let me tell you why we should do that. If you look at NAPIMS, look at the joint ventures, for how long there has not been any investment in the oil sector in this country? Until when? When this administration came. You are a living witness. I've seen you, you've spoken about it, when one of the major oil companies came up with its investment plan close to about how many $1 billion? You've seen it. So if that money and that investment is coming, I don't see why we should not be able to reach close to about 2.2 or 2.5 million barrels per day. And then if you look at NUPRC plans with the 1 million barrel additions that they are working on today, I knew at this moment there is a team in Kigali working on how our exploration will boom. So looking at the projection, I'm not talking about just numbers. I'm talking about reality. You are a Nigerian, and you know that if we are serious, even as at today, if we are serious, this 2.06 is achievable. So from what we are seeing so far, and from all the commitments that NMPCL have done, NUPRC have done, I believe that we are going to meet our targets. I was at the CBN Monetary Forum. I have heard the presentations that were made, and I'm convinced that if we take these policies to the letter, we are going to achieve all the parameters we have set. So, Senator, my worry is not about, I do know, and a lot of experts believe that, in fact, Nigeria is producing in the corridor of the oil that gets out of Nigeria per day is about that figure. But unfortunately, the actual figure that is captured is what we do know. And a lot of things are happening. That the parameters and the systems in measuring what gets out of Nigeria is actually inadequate. 1. 2, the issues of theft is still not being solved. There is insecurity in some parts of the oil-producing areas. There are those who are crying and who are agitating in some part of the Niger Delta due to environmental issues. And I say, you cannot explore oil until these issues are solved. And these are the issues. Before you then say that you'll be producing 700 million barrels per day higher than what you are currently doing, you must have done something significant. So, Senator, what have they been able to prove to you when they came for defense to justify that we can produce 2.01 million barrels per day has been projected by them? So Nigerians need to know if you and your colleague just sign off on what the president said or what they defended without actually looking at the issues of whether or not Warri and Port Harcourt refineries are working properly, defend from what they are telling us on television. If you and your colleagues have gone on the ground to find out for the sake of Nigerians that the money invested by Nigerians into these refineries are actually working. Shaun, if you look at the last 3-4 years, you will sympathize with this country, especially when you're talking about oil theft. Since the inception of this administration, measures have been taken to curtail
whatever and whoever is doing that stealing. And we must give kudos to Mr. President that today you are saying it yourself that OPEC have said we are at the range of 1.7. And we just passed the Appropriation Act today. So I believe that within the next 1 month, we will see change in that sector. But that is not all about it. You are talking about numbers. I will not talk about the numbers. I'm talking about my engagements now with both NNPC and NUPRC. We've been talking about metering system in this country for a very long time. But Mr. President have taken the bull by the horn and said, we must bring metering system. We will not only depend on what the IOCs or the oil producers will tell us they have produced. We will have to have our meters in all our jetties and what do you call it? Terminals. In all our oil terminals, we're supposed to have what is called metering system. And today, with the advanced technology, you will be in Abuja here, you'll be able to know what is flowing right there and what is being taken out from the wells, from the oil wells, what is going through the pipeline, what is going to either aircraft or any of the jetties and is being taken out of this country, what is even taken into the vessels with technology today. And Mr. President have insisted the use of technology must be applied in that. And this brings us to also the issue of what is being captured in the PIA, especially when it comes to the issue of knowing the volume of production of oil in this country. We've done a very good job in the PIA, and I believe that the NNPCL and NUPRC should start implementing whatever that we have made as a law. Because if we do that, I can assure you that reaching 2.06 will not be a problem. And again, if you look at the next act, which also give powers for the oil and gas inspection and monitoring, and also of that of non-oil sector, we are going to, if you notice our last MTEP report and the recommendation that was approved by the National Assembly, we're supposed to look at the next act so that we will make sure that even if you are an inspector, you must have a monitoring system either by true meter so that we know actually what is being produced. Not that what IOCs will tell us they have produced.
Senator, just for a moment, because the Bonga oil field investment bringing in $5 billion investment by Shell into the Bonga oil field, I just want to clarify that may not yield any result. The minimum time that it can yield any result is 2.5 years or 2 years. Some will say 3 to 5 years. So immediately we might not see the fruit of that. I'm just trying to let you know that we needed to be cautious. If we are depending on our revenue to drive our budget from majorly from oil, and we are shooting so high, we need to be cautious so that we can meet our target. And Senator, the envelope that is set for this budget, just for a moment, is just about $36.6 billion. 54 trillion might look like a big number, but we do know that our currency to the dollar has actually, the budget has shrunk in the real sense of it, if you convert it to the dollar, compared to what we had in 2023 and 2024. But the big question here is the stabilization of the economy. Are you able to scrutinize the economic team to let Nigerians know that, for example, food insecurity that we are facing in this country, how Nigerians can be able to live with the inflation rate that we're experiencing? Things are very difficult in this country, Senator.
Mr. President have looked at all these things, and for that reason, Mr. President said, look, Nigeria cannot continue to drive its revenue for a monolithic economy. We have to diversify. And based on his ideals and vision of diversification, he now brings in about how non-oil sector will boom. I can tell you, Nigeria has the potentials to be able to take care of its budget adequately even without putting too much pressure on the oil. But for what you have said, the Bonga oil exploration will not yield until 2 years or more. What is important for this country is for the investment to come into this country now, and that has been done. The most important thing is that if such investment is in this country, the indices, if you are an economist, what you look at is what comes in. What are those direct foreign investment that you've gotten in order to put all the sectors that you are thinking we need to work on? You see, Mr. President have done something. He's trying to stabilize so many things. He has brought about the mining sector. From this budget, you will see the allocation that have been put in, like a stabilization for the mining sector. Why is he doing that? He's trying to see how he can expand the scope of revenue.
But are you able to compare the outgoing, the investment that are leaving the country to the FDI?
You see, when people are talking about the investment leaving this country and the FDI, have you been able to compare the imports that are coming into this country as far to the export that is going out of this country?
But the question is that why are they leaving? You need to ask the question.
I'm not asking. I'm asking
in terms of ease of doing business and the environment of investment in Nigeria. You asked a question
about a conglomerate or a blue chip company that intends or has left this country. I'm talking about the economy itself. Have you now thought of, as a Nigerian, when we used to bring even 5 alive, toothpick we used to bring into this country through our ports? And today, have you compared how much exports of even semi-processed goods that we are doing out of this country and how much we are getting from those exports and putting into the revenue profile of this country? Those are the things, those are how you can aggregate. Not about business. If I own a business and I decide to move elsewhere, I would move elsewhere because maybe I feel there is one reason or the other. But every country has its own interest. And if it is the interest of Nigeria to say that, look, we have these raw materials in Nigeria, you cannot always use us to take raw materials and bring into this country and also take our finished goods out of this country without adequately giving us the revenue.
Let's take a breather, Senator. One area that is concerning to a lot of people is the inappropriateness in the allocation of constituency project with you and your colleagues. I'd like to get some explanation whether you are able to read this budget of those inappropriateness. We'll be right back after this break, everyone. Join us again. So much, everyone, for staying with us on the program. Senator Sani Musa is the chairman of the Senate Committee on Finance. And a day as he said, when the National Assembly has agreed on the budget, now we're waiting to see how and when the president will sign the budget. I imagine it's until when he returns to the country from Ethiopia, where he's been attending the World Leaders Summit in Addis Ababa. Senator, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. Before I get into the constituency project issues, let me say, because if I go into some of the details on areas that are worrisome for me, because we don't have as much time any longer, we will spend more than 2 hours in debating some of the issues, because I believe that this document, the appropriation bill, for example, is going to help direct our economy and make the lives of Nigerians better. In fact, there are those who believe that Nigeria should not be doing a 54 trillion budget. We should be doing way higher. That our economy has the capacity to do more. But this is just a measurement of what government will spend and how much government is expecting in its coffers. So let's look at it. You are the committee chair on finance, and there are those who are concerned that the economy of this country is tanking. That there is a major issues with the economy. And if you look at the indices, the government will come and defend the economy to say things are stabilizing. There will be initial suffering, but people might enjoy at the end of the day. Who doesn't want to enjoy after a little bit of a pain? Yes, we know that is a natural curve, but a lot of hopes have been dashed in the past in this country, and it's very difficult to believe the government officials for what they say on the face value. But in your engagement with them, there has been conversation as to the economy of this country. We've heard what FRS has done in terms of revenue generation. We've heard what customs have done, and kudos to those organizations for doing their best. But the question really is, the economy is in trouble. What can you say, or what do you know, Senator, and what has the economic team told you of how we are getting out of these doldrums?
Thank you, Sheun. I can recall that the President of the Senate, His Excellency Godswill Akpabio, GCON, at the time that we're calling the economic team, he had an engagement with them, and he emphatically said that, look, we need to translate whatever that we have in numbers to reach out to our constituents. And that every representative of the people's concern is about how to reach and take the goodies to our people. We want to see Nigeria doing very well. So far, I can tell you, from October 2024, I can tell you that the Nigerian economy have taken a completely dynamic look, that the future will be bright. For you, the question is that why is it that now we are not seeing that change? Remember, the decay has been there for a very long time. And in economics, there is no way you can tell me today there is hardship and tomorrow the hardship is gone. No, it's going to be gradual. If you look at the slope of every change in terms of either inflation, in terms of GDP, why is that you don't hear that GDP is jumping from 10 to 20 or 10 to 30? You never hear that. It's in bits. So we are moving slowly, but I can assure you that the economy is not really in bad shape. Nigeria recently did a Eurobond, and when we went to the market for the Eurobond, for you to see that people have confidence in the economy, is a 2.2 billion Eurobond.
When the CBN went on the road.
Yeah, but the DMO. Yeah. But at the end of the day, people that subscribed to it was about, they subscribed close to about 9-point-something billion.
It was oversubscribed.
Oversubscribed. So you can, that tells you if the economy is good or not. The rating agencies, instead of now putting us either where we are, the rating agencies are getting us up now. So that is another area to show you that the economy is not doing bad. So, Sheun, there are a lot of indices we have seen. It's not just saying that, look, we put a figure. For me, as you said, Nigeria having a budget of $30-something billion is not good enough for this country. If in South Africa with only about 45 million population will be doing things which we in this country have more of everything. Everything you find in South Africa, we have more of it here.
South Africa is doing way higher in terms of college and growth.
Why are they doing,
Why are
they doing more higher? Tell me, why are they doing more higher? And that is why Mr. President comes in boldly to saying that, look, our revenue target is not about imposing taxes on people, but look, there are a lot of loopholes.
But the question is that, what are we creating differently? Because the argument is that, let me tell you what why, just for a moment, Senator, why a lot of Nigerians might have problem with you and your colleagues is this government has been accused of following and taking hook, line, and sinker some of the policy decisions or some of the policy advisory of some international organization, which they say may not be in the interest of Nigeria. An imposition of taxes and tariffs on Nigeria and burdening them even in the midst of the suffering. And the question is that, how would you allow Nigerians to bear more burden, and you are representatives of the people? Are you worried that this government is following some of the policies of these international agencies, which they say may not be doing the interest of Nigeria?
So I will not be able to make any comment on that, because I have not seen anything to prove to me that any other country or any other international agency or organization is influencing how we run our economy.
You don't see how the IMF is the line of economic advisory of IMF to several countries?
I am the chairman Committee on Finance, and I can tell you anything that is before me that I have seen, I will comment on it.
So you don't see the trend?
But what is not seeing the trend is seeing the reality. If you tell me, if you ask me a question about our monetary or fiscal policy, and ask me, the monetary policy and the fiscal policy, in my own opinion, is it going well?
Is it going
and
well?
And then I will add something to you.
Going well,
you have not asked me that.
I'm asking you now.
If you're asking me now, all I will tell you is that what we need between these two is proper coordination. Proper coordination. Because for you to be able to put your economy in the right pedestal, you must be able to see that the monetary policies you are putting, the monetary policies will translate to what the fiscal policy will look at. Because if you will now give your MPRs and all that, you put your points, you put your interest rates and other things, it will translate, because majority of the people that you are making those policies for are Nigerians. And Nigerians will go to the bank and they see it differently. So if you do your policies that are very well and the fiscal policies that go well with it, you see that the country is going.
What has this government added for local production in this budget that should tell Nigerians that really they are encouraging local production far and above? And you saw what Donald Trump is doing. Donald Trump is focusing on how his country can thrive over and above foreign or international interests.
Have you seen what Mr. President have done with recapitalizing the Bank of Agriculture?
That's one.
Have you seen the recapitalization that is going to be given to Bank of Industry? Okay, for the small and medium scale, because that is the area that we should be targeting at. And then I will say something, which of course I'm happy yesterday the House of Representatives have passed for the second reading the tax reform bills. I have read the tax reform bills, all the 4 tax reform bills. I've looked at them. And I can tell you, for any economy to prosper, you must, all those arcade laws that we have, we must bring them to reality.
So what are they projecting, Senator? What are they projecting? We see all of these moves. The economy team must be able to tell us. In the next 1 or 2 years, our projection is that so number of companies that we have activated will help us to project our local production to so, and our export will yield so and so. What are the figures they're giving you?
Based on the engagement we have had with the economic team, I can tell you vividly that I have seen those changes coming. Because if you look at the budget today, look at our debt servicing, and then look at the capital expenditure that we have been putting in there. There is no country, no matter how it is, without good infrastructure, no matter what you want to do with the economy, you will not get it right. And that has been adequately taken care of. And I believe that even today, the National Assembly members made in their comments spoke about releases of capital funds for capital budgetary funds.
I will only believe that if I know the figures of the 2024 performance of the budget.
The 2024 performance of the budget, Mr. President of the Senate have said it before the camera.
What percentage?
And he said we need to do more. For the expenditures, the overhead, almost 100%.
Yes, naturally.
Exactly.
I'm concerned about the capital expenditure.
And then if you go to the capital expenditure, I do not think we have crossed the
we're not doing well,
about 30%. I'm not defending it.
Yeah.
We are not doing. Why are we not doing?
Those are the gaps.
Why are we not doing? We were made to understand by the Minister of Finance that there is a new system of transition between the old system of payment and the new system. And today, on the floor of the Senate, all senators have commented on that and have called on the Minister of Finance to revise that policy, Senator, so that our economy can blossom.
Yeah, I'm a bit somewhat happy with the budget, the figures for security, which I think is important. In fact, nations of the world are being judged as powerful because of their ability to be able to protect their own land. America, the UK, and China, Russia. The budget on security, sometimes determining how powerful and how you rate them. So I see the deliberate effort of this government in terms of security. But I'm bothered, and this is going to be my final area of questioning to you, Senator, and how you and your colleagues manage the budget in terms of what you put in them. How much the statutory is supposed to be 100 billion, isn't it? For a constituency project.
That is
but Nigerians are bothered, Senator. That some of you and your colleagues, what you do is unreasonable, in quote, insertion of projects that some of these agencies of government don't have the capacity to implement. For example, the National Center for Agricultural Mechanization in Ilorin was allocated 500 million naira to purchase security patrol vehicles for Lagos State. You wonder, what is the correlation? For example, Senator, Federal Cooperative College, Oji River, in Enugu State, got a cumulative 4 billion naira to construct rural farm roads in Essien and Etim Ekpo of Akwa Ibom State. And loads of all of these funny insertions of budget. I hope this 2025 budget, by the time we are scrutinizing it, we will not find this kind of things there.
When you are talking about the National Assembly, have you also scrutinized the submission in terms of overheads, in terms of what do you call it, recurrent expenditures of the executive?
I'm asking the direct question to you and your colleagues on the constituency project.
On the constituency project, the essence of every representative is to be able to carry something of development back home.
Reasonably.
Well, I don't understand what you mean by reasonably.
I'm just giving
If I'm going to get 100 vehicles for security to take to Shiroro local government, I will want it. How it comes, it does not matter to me. What matters most to me is let it be appropriated, let it be legally done, let due process take its place, and that is fine.
Are you also worried that most of these constituency projects are never completed?
It's not my responsibility to know if it is completed, but as far as I know, there is no senator or there is no member of House of Representatives that will not want to go and complete a project for his people, Senator, and he wants to be elected.
We are charging you and your colleagues to do more oversight, please. We want this country to do well. It beholds on you when it comes to appropriation, you and your colleagues to do well. On constituency project, you need to do better. You guys need to scrutinize what is going on. There are unreasonable insertions into the budget.
There are no unreasonable insertions. The way the budget came, and that is the way we treated it. And when you are talking of constituency projects, whatever kind of project you feel your people desire, because you cannot just incite projects as constituency project. You are given an allocation for every senator, every member of House of Representatives.
How much did you get, for example?
And this is not only in Nigeria. Everywhere, even in the United States, it happens. So what you are saying is that Nigerians should also look at those that are given the mandate to execute those projects,
Senator,
because we don't execute.
Senator, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Senator Sani Musa is the Chair, Senate Committee on Finance, and that's how we end the program tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm sure Kimale. God bless Nigeria.